Peace, peace. You know what it is. It's your man SKYZOO Skyzoo live out the borough. And this is the NBA Exchange with my man Dexter Henry. You know how you doing it, man. Log on, tap in. Let's get into it.
What up, what up, what up? It's Wednesday. Glad for you guys to join us on the NBA Exchange. I'm your host, Dexter Henry. Wednesday, you know what time it is on the NBA Exchange. It is NBA with nuance. We get to discuss some things. We don't bring the hot takes. You hear these ridiculous takes on some of these other shows. I had my man Brian Fonseca hit me about one of these shows the other day. You know, first thing in the morning, you got to get some ridiculous takes. No, we come later in the morning. And we giving you some nuance. It can happen, folks. We've been doing this for quite some time. Always doing it with me on a Wednesday is my man, the great Jarod Hector. He is here of True Hoop fame. Almost messing up True Hoop right there. My man, Jarod Hector. Also, 7 Footers Podcast. You can catch him on as well, doing his thing. Him and Jenna Lemoncelli were doing the thing last night. Jarod, good to see you, man.
Yes, sir.
Doing well. We got a lot to talk about. We've been talking about the weather the last couple of weeks, and as we start these shows off, I was not. I know you're a runner, so you're up early. I was not thrilled today because we were back down into like the high 30s, low 40s this morning. And granted, nobody gives a damn fuck about a 40-degree day.
Nobody.
There's a video out there that Jarod knows. But I know for the runners, you guys like the 40-degree days, though, right? Like the 40 days are cool.
40's fine. You know, it's look, when you with running, it's about the elements, right? If it's like extreme hot or extreme cold, that's when you're like, all right, man. Like, I mean, in the summertime, I avoid those 80, 90 plus humidity days because I'm out early, right? So even I get out before that. When the winter, you don't have that choice. That's when you're like, man, it's like -5 with the wind chill. And I'm over here on the Hudson River, so I get that wind coming off the river all the time. It's brutal. But you know what, Dexter? I managed. Today was fine. 40 wasn't terrible. You know, I am looking forward to, though, putting away my hat and gloves for running. But we probably got about another 3 weeks-ish, probably, until I can put those away for good.
That's 3 weeks too long. That's all. That's 3 weeks too long. I want quick. I said this. I'll drop my daughter to school. I said to somebody, I said, I just want, like, I like when I can just get up in the morning. I'm like, oh, I might need the hoodie. I can take the hoodie and then we could just roll. Like, that's why. But soon. Patience. A lot of stuff going on with the weather. A lot of stuff going on with the NBA. Jarod and I, we decided we wanted to talk today about the race to avoid the play-in, because Jarod hit me up and was like, let's talk about the races for 6 and 7. Well, let's call it what it is. It's the race for who does not want any part of the play-in, okay? Now, the race to finish in the top 6, Jarod, it is tightly contested, right? Like, very tightly contested. Before we get to that, I want, for people watching the show, I want people to see what it looks like right now, real time, what it looks like with the Play-In Tournament, right? So this is what you got right now. Let's look at the West. We got your team. Jarod is out here rocking the gold today, representing for his team. And King James and the Los Angeles Lakers,
chill.
They are in the 9th spot, and they would host the Pelicans. And let's be clear, Jarod's mentioned this before. The Pelicans can catch them, right?
It could.
Pelicans can catch them and be hosting that game, that 9-10 game, okay? The Minnesota Timberwolves, who've been playing great ball, best record since the All-Star break. They are the 7th seed. They would host the Clippers, which, look, Clippers play tough. That's not an easy game. That is interesting. In the East, 9-10 game right now will be the Hornets hosting the Hawks. That could flip and switch. I think both those teams make the play-in. The Knicks looked like they were done after losing to the Hawks last night. That's a wrap on that. And then the Raptors and the Nets, 7-8, we're going to dive more into that because those teams can move up as high as 5 or 6 and really get out of there. So we're not done there. But just so people can see and they can understand, this is what we are working with. We'll get into the standings itself in a bit. But have you been shocked with how tightly contested this is, Jarod? Do you look at this as a good thing for the league? Is this parity? Some people say. What do you think about how tightly contested these races are in both of these conferences?
Yeah, I mean, what's the big knock on the NBA that, you know, casual fans have, right? It's too much basketball and these regular season games don't matter. And so many teams and players and coaches by their actions tell us, well, the regular season doesn't matter, right? We got 82 of these things. But since Adam Silver implemented the play-in tournament, we've seen more intensity around these final games about players and teams wanting to either get into that play-in or maintain the top 6 so they avoid that play-in. And just so our viewers understand, the difference between getting that last playoff spot, that 6, versus play-in, you basically have a week off, right? Because the play-in tournament starts that Monday or Tuesday, and then you got 7-8 winner. Okay, that winner automatically gets the 7th seed, but then the loser of that plays the winner of the 9-10, right? So you've got a couple different options in there where you're able to get yourself more rest and get yourself healthy and also get some practice time in before the postseason starts. So that's a big reason, but it's generated interest. It creates these 1-game scenarios we saw last year. Memphis going on the road to Chase Center, beating the Golden State Warriors and Steph Curry to earn that 8 seed, and they were able to take on the Utah Jazz. So it's exciting. I like it. I think it's great. But yeah, we're gonna see some tight races here.
Yeah, definitely going to see some tight races. I like it too. I loved it last year. Some people have made the argument that, oh, well, teams like the Lakers who don't deserve to be in should, get that chance now. I'm like, well, the teams that are better should beat them. That's really it for me. I don't really have much more on it than that. But we also want to take a look at the standings. I'm going to bring up the standings for everybody. We're going to look at the Western Conference first, okay? The Western Conference, it is tight. You can see right here, Suns at the top, Grizzlies at 2, Warriors 3, Jazz 4. I'm going to start here with the Jazz when we look at this, Jarod, because the Jazz are 4, 12.5 games back of the Suns, okay? But they only have a 3-game lead on the Timberwolves, right? If you look at this in the West, there could be a lot of fluctuation here. It is not crazy to think that things can move really crazy here in the West. Who do you like to stay in that top 6? And who do you think can maybe move around? Who really needs to stay in that top 6?
So I think Phoenix and Memphis are pretty much locked in at 1-2. I doubt the Warriors catch Memphis at 2 because of the Steph Curry injury. And now the Warriors did lose a game to Orlando last night, right? So that's tough. And they're on the second out of a back-to-back. They play Miami tonight. So that could be 2 straight they lose, right? That gets them now closer to Dallas and Utah. I like Dallas to kind of maintain because Luka is playing like an MVP level player right now. I think he started his kick a little too late in the season for him to be to finish top 5. But although he might some people might move DeMar DeRozan out and put Luka in, which could happen, right? Because DeRozan started hot but faded. Luka started slow and has increased. So that could happen there. But I like Dallas because of the way Luka's playing and the way they're playing defense. Utah, you and I talk about them all the time. Everyone talks about them. You call them paper champs, call them whatever you want. This has been the team that has been atop the league in adjusted net rating for the last 3 seasons. Yet come postseason, things don't work themselves out the way they are. Second night of a back-to-back in Brooklyn earlier this week. They beat the Knicks on Sunday, lost to the Nets on Monday. This is a team that's a little bit inconsistent right now, and they're a show-me team. Like, I got to see it in the playoffs. I got to see them make adjustments. And the thing is, I don't know that anything about them changes. So I'm looking at Utah. It's like, watch them, see what's happening there. The other team to pay attention to, Dexter, you mentioned how great Minnesota's playing. I can easily see them continuing that rise up. They're young. Karl-Anthony Towns is playing like an all-NBA center. I do believe he will displace Rudy Gobert from the all-NBA third-team spot this year and make that third-team center spot. And, Denver, as awesome as Jokic has been, and he might be the MVP again, they're relying on him a lot. And they're only a half game up on Minnesota. And I could see a situation where Minnesota really pushes Denver down the stretch. And if you're Denver, does that mean I have to play Jokic 40-something minutes down the stretch to hold on to this 6th seed? And that shoots me in the foot come postseason. We still don't know what the Murray and Michael Porter Jr. situation is, although we're hearing Porter Jr. is targeting a return before the playoffs. We'll see. Only got 10, 11 games or so left.
I thought you made a really good point too in terms of bringing up Golden State, right? They lost, as you said, last night to Orlando. Look, folks, they're only 3.5 up on the Jazz. Let's not act like that 3-4 can flip, or depending on how these last 10 games shake out for Golden State, they could even find themselves without home court advantage in the first round, right? A lot can happen in 10 games. Somebody goes 2-8 in that time. Somebody else goes 8-2 in that time. And now you have a whole lot of movement. So Golden State, a team that's not whole, bad loss for them last night. They were down. They came back and took the lead, and then they still lose to a lowly Magic team. That's a game they have to have. Keep your eye on them too. I don't think they will drop out to 7. I don't think that's the concern for them, but they could end up in the first round playing some games on the road. And that's something, to definitely keep your eye on there as you look at the standings. Okay, so let's go over to the East, all right? Not football. We don't need to see that right now. So when you're looking at the Eastern Conference standings, Jarod, which are insanely tight, okay? We talked about how tight is the West. The folks watching, you can see this here. It's possible Philadelphia could drop to the 7 with a bad 10 games, right?
It could, yeah.
Anything can happen here. And then you got the Raptors who sit at 7, right? They're technically in a tie, but Cleveland is a tiebreaker right now. The Nets, they are 3.5 games behind the Cleveland Cavaliers, right? With 10 to go. They've been playing some better basketball as of late. The Raptors have been good. They're 7-3 in their last 10. This is crazy. And also, nobody wants to see the Nets. We'll touch on that in a second, too. What do you make of this Eastern Conference battle for the 6th seed, and what kind of movement do you think we can see?
Yeah, so Chicago's been struggling. They're the 5th seed. They're 4.5, so they got 2 games clear of Cleveland and Toronto. But, they've been struggling of late. Cleveland, we know about the Jared Allen injury. Cleveland and Toronto have a big game coming up tomorrow night. We're recording this on Wednesday, Thursday. That's a big game. Cleveland wins that game. That puts them a full game ahead. And at this point, with 10 to 12 games to go, every game counts. This is big. I could see Toronto pulling ahead, right? And them getting into that 6th spot, Cleveland falling into the 7. Now, what does that mean? I think for the Nets, because of the constant fluctuation with Kyrie only able to play road games and not home games, it's likely to me they remain in the 8th spot right now and then have to play in the play-in. Although if Cleveland still continues to falter, the Nets could switch and then take that 7 seed. I don't know, unless they literally blitz and go 12-0 in the last 12 games the Nets have, and the teams ahead of them go, 5-5 or 4-8. Like, it's going to be tough for them to get into that 6th spot. But to your point, anything could happen. But why that matters to the Nets is if Toronto gets up into that 6th spot and it's Cleveland at 7, Nets at 8. Cleveland hosts Brooklyn for the play-in game. That means Kyrie Irving is eligible to play. New York City Mayor Eric Adams said New York teams are just going to have to wait until the mandate's lift, which means I don't know when that happens. It could happen next month. It could happen in May. There is no definitive timetable on when that is, and that's the sort of uncertainty for Brooklyn, but they have been playing better basketball. So it's interesting. And then at the top, the Bucks are only 2 games back of Miami. So look, I could see Miami is 7-3 in the last 10. The Bucks 8-2. I could see some things happening there. The Sixers are only a game back. I mean, it's Boston, the quiet team in there that's just winning games and playing great defense. That the top 4 could see some fluctuation. And I think even though none of them will admit it, none of those teams in that top group want to play the Brooklyn Nets in round 1 of the playoffs. It isn't like, oh, we're afraid or whatever. It's more like that ain't the round we want to see because, any team with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving is going to cause problems.
Absolutely going to cause problems. I think what's interesting, too, at the top, like you mentioned, Miami, because you have to look at the top in these races. Miami, they had a terrible loss the other night to a Sixers team that had no James Harden, no Joel Embiid. And they had me annoyed with the betting. They had me annoyed. Brian, I ain't trusting your Heat. Well, some of the points that Jarod has been making and concerns about their late game offense, they couldn't do it against a Sixer team that didn't have their top end talent. Look, the Bucks have been playing well, like you said. They're right behind them with 2 games. I wonder how motivated they are to get the top spot. That's the interesting thing for me. Or the Sixers. I don't know how motivated any of these teams are. I think the Celtics are going to play hard. They're trying to win every game, and they've been dominating the games they're supposed to. That's what's interesting about them. Even the Bulls. I know the Bulls are 4.5 back, but they only have a 2-game lead over that 7 spot. They could drop out, and they have not played great basketball. 3-7 in their last 10. They've been dealing with a lot of injuries and getting pieces back, so that should be noted too. But it's going to be really interesting in the East. So when we look at this and we look at all this with the teams, Jarod, which team or team wants no part of the play-in? Because you talked about how teams don't want to see the Nets, right?
Yeah.
Not because of fear, as you explained. But which teams are like, look, we don't need any of this at all. We are not trying to be in the play-in. We need that week of rest, that time to practice, etc. Which teams need that the most?
In the Western Conference, it's Denver Nuggets for sure. They don't want to drop into that 7 spot because, again, they've had to rely on Nikola Jokic so heavily this season because they don't have their number 2 and number 3 players. We think one of them may be coming back, but we don't know. So for sure, they don't want any part of it. And in the Eastern Conference, I think it would be very disappointing for Chicago if they find themselves struggling and down into the play. I think everybody else is kind of a victim of their circumstances and are fine where they are, even though Cleveland was number 3. 3 weeks ago, they were as high as 3rd in the NBA, 3rd in the East, excuse me. They're ahead of schedule, so they're not going to be upset about falling into the play-in if that actually happens to them. And the Nets know, look, we've been injured all year, the Harden trade, all that stuff, Kyrie in and out of lineups. Like, they know we are where we are, and there's a level of sort of calm and comfort around that team, Dexter, in the sense of they're just like, man, just get us in. We got 7. We're good. Like, get us in, and we'll figure it out from there.
We'll figure it out when we're there. Well, guess who was watching? Guess who's watching the show? It had to be Brian Fonseca. And here's the comment. Right on time, right on brand. All the aggression you could want. A little salty because his Heat took an L the other day to the terrible Sixers, who they should have beat. You ain't gotta be mad with me talking about he's right here. See, that's that Bobby Portis energy, man.
Bobby Portis energy, man. I will say, speaking of Bobby Portis, the Bucks are a team that I don't think they're particularly concerned about what seed they are either.
I'd agree with that.
Defending champs, again, that weight of winning is off their shoulders. They already won last year, so if anything, they're going into this postseason free. And like, even though they're defending champs and they want to repeat, there's a level of like, we've already been there before. We know we can do it. And that is something that you can't quite measure what that means. So they don't care where they are, home, road. They're like, we're good. We know what to do.
Yeah, I think they're very comfortable, confident, and they've sort of been hitting their stride at the right time. Okay, which team do you think is likeliest, or teams, to fall out of the top 6? That, look, schedule's tough. Things might not break right for them down the stretch. Who's likely to fall out the top 6?
Same teams that don't want any part of the playoffs, right? Denver in the West, because again, Minnesota's just coming on like a house on fire, and Denver has to rely so much on Jokic. And in the Eastern Conference, it's the Cavaliers, right? Because of the injury and because of, again, Toronto's coming right on their heels. I think Chicago also could potentially be in danger. 3-7 in their last 10. Lonzo Ball still not nearing return, I don't think. I know they just got Caruso back, which is big for them, and they need that. Because remember, when this team was clicking, Lonzo and Caruso, right, with Zach LaVine and DeMar, that 3-guard lineup was crucial for them because they could really stop teams and do a good job. Well, Brian's got a question in the chat. Do y'all think that there's something to be said rather than getting the Nets in the playoffs where they figure it out later? In a way, I do. It's like I said before, though, Brian. Like, I think if you're a Nets fan, or if you are on the Nets, there's a level of comfort you feel knowing I got a healthy 7. I don't care where we are, where it's going to be. We feel good about whoever we're going to play. And if you're another team, I think you're like, regardless of whether I see Kevin Durant in round 1 or in the conference finals, that's a scary dude, right? Like, we seen what he did in the playoffs last year. I mean, just check his resume, right? So I think regardless, that's a dude you're like, I don't want to face him no rounds if I don't have to.
I wonder if Brian's also bringing up, Brian, you let us know if this is what you're talking about too. I wonder if he's also talking about the fact that some of it has to do with the mandate. The later maybe you go, the likelier you think that the mandate might change. And now the dynamic of the team changes because Kyrie could be more available. And that does change who you're playing against and how you prepare for them, right? Like, that does change things.
I mean, say whatever you want about Kyrie, and we've definitely started a bunch on all these shows, but you got them 2 dudes in a 7-game series and they can play all the games. And remember, Kyrie's healthy, right? This is a dude who he's played 30 games all season. I mean, so he's going to be among, Coach David Thorpe said this the other day on True. because when Thorpe's watching League Pass, he's got about 5 TV screens in his office, and he's watching them all at once. And he's like, that was the night that Kyrie scored 60 against Orlando. He's like, I'm watching these games, and he's like, one superstar looked like he was in fast forward mode, and everybody else was looking like they were in rewind. And that one was Kyrie Irving. Yeah, well, guess what? When you only got to play 30 times, when everybody else has played 82, you're gonna be a lot fresher than everybody else, right? So a fresh Kyrie, a healthy Durant, like that ain't cool, right? Like I mean, think about it. Beating those 2 dudes 4 times out of 7, hard, because they are the ultimate. I don't care what defense you throw out, we're gonna make shots anyway, right? Like,
and we're not even talking about Ben Simmons, who we still do not know. We still don't know a lot, and things haven't sounded that great around him.
Yeah, I would be less. I mean, look, if Simmons comes back and he's able to be the defensive force and all that, I mean, good luck. But with backs, honestly, if I'm the Nets, think about it. He's not going to make it back for the regular season, right? We only got 10, 11 games.
10 games ago. Yep.
So this is a person who's got herniated discs. He hasn't done 5-on-5 yet, and you're going to bring him back in the pressure cooker of the playoffs to go of that level of intensity with a bad back? To me, that's a bad idea. You got that guy signed up for the next 3-4 seasons, whatever left of his contract is. Durant signed on for another 5. Like, yo, man, I'd be like, nah, we'll wait till next year to get him right. That's me personally.
Brian also adds here, to be clear, I wouldn't want to see them either, but if given a choice, I think I'd rather early. And I understand the logic there.
Yes.
I understand Brian's logic there, especially considering the health of Ben Simmons, if he did happen to return, the vaccine mandate and how that might change things, just the dynamic of the team. Yeah, I think there's a lot of people talking. Brian makes a good point about people wanting to avoid them, and I understand that, but it could be better early than late. I don't think that's crazy.
Given the mandate structures, yes, you'd rather face them early for sure.
Yeah, for sure on that. Okay, so we talked about the team. You talked about the teams likeliest to fall out of the top 6. So let's look at the reverse. What about the teams that are the most likely to move up from the play-in tournament, get out of it, and get into that top 6? Who do you like to do that? Lakers? Come on, say the Lakers.
Come on now, chill with that. The only team that I think realistically, 2 teams. Minnesota, obviously, because they're basically half game behind Denver, and Toronto is basically tied with Cleveland. So I can see Toronto pushing back in. Again, if the Nets go on a blitz starting with tonight's game in Memphis, right? Potentially, but they have to have the Nets need help, whereas Minnesota and Toronto need less help, right? Because they're virtually tied for 6th right now. The Nets need a lot of help of the teams in front of them to start falling down, right? Whereas Minnesota and Toronto, they just keep winning. That's going to be maybe enough to push them into that top 6.
Yeah, it might be. It's going to be very, very interesting. So when we talk about the play-in tournament, Jarod, we talked about how we both like it. You've seen different thoughts about how people feel about it. Do you think it's here to stay? I mean, I've enjoyed it the last couple of years, but do you think this is here to stay? Is this the NBA change that we should get used to? This is the new normal in terms of the playoffs.
Oh, without question. Because remember, it gives owners an extra game of revenue for concessions and all that stuff. And look, and if you get lucky, and let's say you were a 10 seed, which in the old days, you would be after 82 games, you're done. It's 1, 2, 3 Cancun. But now you win 2 games and you're the 10 seed. All of a sudden, you have 2 guaranteed home dates in the playoffs, which is extra revenue, right? And it's one thing we these billionaire owners want is more money, right? They want that revenue, particularly after all the crying they're going to do about the money they lost during COVID, which boo-hoo, ain't nobody crying for y'all.
Ain't nobody here for those tears at all.
Crocodile
whatsoever. tears. Yeah. And yeah. I was gonna take a little further, but I'm gonna chill on that. All right, good discussion on the play-in tournament. We'll have a lot. Play-in tournament, in case you're wondering, that starts April 12th. The playoffs start April 16th. So we're very close. We're under a month to this. I'm excited. And there'll be a lot of people. I'm not sure if we can get Jarod on this train. Can we get Jarod on the train in the next couple of weeks to believe in the King that they will make it out of the play-in tournament, right? I want to know what the odds are on the Lakers. We'll talk about that in a couple of weeks. Betting on the Lakers to get out of the play-in tournament.
Man, listen. Even if they do that, all right, your gift, Los Angeles Lakers, for clawing your way out of the play-in is a rematch with the best team in the NBA, the Phoenix Suns. And man, How sweet would that be for the Suns to demolish y'all and sweep you out of the playoffs?
Or one could argue it is also sweet for the Lakers, who Anthony Davis talked about how he wasn't on the court. And if he wasn't on the court, things would be different. Now, I find it hard to talk about how things would be different when you're never on the court.
I was going to say, you mean Anthony Street Clothes Davis, who's hurt right now?
But he was chirping, man. He was talking like your boys down in Memphis. You know what I'm saying? Like
he wanted all that smoke. He climbed up the chimney.
yeah. He climbing up the chimney. He's like, if I was there, things would have been different. So maybe he'll be there and things will be different. And maybe you got an 8 beating a 1. You're not buying it. All right.
Listen. AD, we don't believe you. You need more people.
Well, actually, he just needs to appear on the court. That's what he needs to do. He just needs to be there. Then we might believe him. All right, we're going to break. When we come back, we're going to give you our Wednesday night NBA picks that doesn't involve betting on the Lakers when we come back on the NBA Exchange. Are you looking for a better way to play player props or daily fantasy sports? Well, look no further than Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the leading over-under daily fantasy game. Why? Because it's so easy to use and win. You can make your picks in under 30 seconds and win up to 10 times your money in one day. Right now, we have a special offer for our viewers and listeners of the NBA Exchange. All you got to do is sign up now and use the promo code NBAEX. Prize Picks will match your first deposit up to $100. Yep, that's right. They'll match your first deposit up to $100. So, join the over 150,000 others who found a better way to play and download the Prize Picks app today. All right, welcome back to the NBA Exchange. Be sure to use that promo code Backpack. It's actually not the one. NBAEX is the one, not Backpack. Sorry, guys. That is for another show. But you can use that one too. Like, we're not telling you not to. You can't use that. Use the one NBAEX. That is fine for you now. We got it right up on the screen for you. Use that code if you want to. And that will help you out. We like talking about the picks here. Some interesting games tonight. I will say this, Jarod. I saw the games tonight. And I already knew the games you were going to pick. And I sometimes I have the case of like picking them, the ones that drive you like, man, you taking my picks. I was like, man, I know where Jarod is going on this.
And the funny thing was, I wasn't going to pick that one game I know you're thinking about. I was like, oh, this Phoenix game actually looks pretty good. I was looking about betting the Phoenix game, but I was like, all right, because Phoenix-Dallas, that's a hell of a game later.
Oh, wait. Phoenix-Dallas? You mean
Suns Dallas tonight, right? Isn't that a game tonight?
No, Rockets play Dallas tonight.
Oh, that might be tomorrow night.
Phoenix, no. You're thinking Phoenix, Minnesota tonight.
Oh, thank you.
Which is still a good game.
That's what I'm thinking.
That's what you were thinking. Yes. You were thinking Phoenix, Minnesota.
I was gonna bet that game, but I was like, you know.
We could get that line. I was just looking at the line on that, and I'm like, I looked at that and was like,
Minnesota coming on, Minnesota. But look. And look, Chris Paul, we're hearing might be back before the end of the regular season.
We're hearing that. I know. To be fair, the Suns have, if you've been looking at betting on them, they've been playing fine without him, which I think only helps. We'll get into this in a couple of weeks. Both Devin Booker and Chris Paul for making All NBA. That's a whole nother discussion, but they've played pretty good without him. I think if you look at that, and it only tells you the greatness of Chris Paul for the people out there that like to hate on CP3. Don't be hating on CP3. Jamal Murphy. All right, Jarod, give us your first game tonight.
Utah Jazz at the Boston Celtics. That is a hell of a matchup. Jazz coming off that loss to Brooklyn. We mentioned they are basically tied for fourth with the Dallas Mavericks. We know about the Celtics. They're in the fourth spot in the East. Look, the Celtics are the number one defense in the NBA. They were 28-28 in January, Dexter. 500. Since then, or not 28-20, 23-23, they have gone on a hell of a run. They are now the number 2 team in the NBA in adjusted net rating at plus 6.2. Number 1 adjusted defense, as I said, number 11 in offense and climbing. The line is Celtics minus 4.5. The over-under is
217.5.
I'm going Celtics minus 4.5 on that. I just love the way they're playing right now. They can guard, and they're going to really cause problems for Donovan Mitchell. And in terms of player props, like single game, I like Celtics for the win, So if you want to do a single game parlay, Celtics for the win, Tatum with 30 or more, Jaylen Brown with 2 or more threes. See what kind of odds you get on that. Or if you want to just go straight up players, I go Jaylen Brown 2 or more threes, Tatum 30 plus. Because who the Jazz got to guard Jason Tatum?
I mean, Jazz can't guard a lot on the perimeter, but yes, you're right.
and I could see Marcus Smart just getting into Donovan Mitchell. Like, not that Mitchell won't find a way to score, but there's certain guys in the league that if you're you just don't like, oh man, that dude, you just don't want to see that dude. You're like, man, you ain't like afraid. You're going, but you're like, man,
this is gonna be a rough night. He's gonna give you some problems. He's a Brian Fonseca All-Star. He's a Brian Fonseca All-Star.
Correct.
For those who know. Yeah, this is very different from you. Your energy is very much fuck the C's. But
usually I'm on that.
We not with that now.
Yeah, listen, okay. I can't knock them, Dex. Like, listen, when you can guard the way they guard, those are my kind of guys. Shouts to Brian. When you can guard the way they guard, and you have two guys who can get their own buckets at any time, like Tatum and Brown, that's just a recipe for winning in the postseason. Like, that's just right. Like, I mean, and listen. The Celtics are the number 1 team in the NBA right now, according to 538, to win the NBA championship.
Yeah,
I'm not saying it's going to happen, but like that's where they are right now.
I have spoken with some Celtic fans who are drinking the green Kool-Aid on this. They are like, oh, you see, listen, the defense has been amazing. I talked about this with Gary Washburn when he was on the show. Defense has been amazing. It's been dope. You like all that, but we'll see. They're one of these teams I can't wait to talk to the writers around it before the playoffs start. I can't wait because it's going to be interesting. Okay, my first game of the night. Brian, I hope you're still watching because talking about your team, man, you let me down. The Golden State Warriors, they're doing their little Florida two-step right now. Place I don't ever want to two-step, but they are doing that. They lost in Orlando the other day. Now they are in Miami and South Beach. We know the distractions that can come in South Beach sometimes. We understand that. But here's my thing with this game. Warriors, they're still trying to find their way with Steph Curry right now, out and all that. Draymond coming back in. We've seen some strong offensive games from Klay Thompson, from Jordan Poole, but they're in flux. This is kind of a game the Warriors need. They need this right here. But Miami, they're coming off a terrible loss at home to a Sixers team that they should have absolutely beaten. They've been disappointed. I've had issues with their offense. Here's my thing. I'm not betting. I wouldn't touch this line for anything. Not where I'd be going with this game.
Even on second out of a back-to-back for Golden State?
I don't trust. I think Golden State still will play. I think they'll still play hard, Jarod. And I don't trust that 6.5. If I'm going to take Miami, give me an alternate spread. Let me drop that about 2 points to 4.5. I might feel a little bit comfortable. But here's what I've been doing with Miami a lot lately. And I like betting the under. Because one thing I do respect for them is the defense. Okay? I do respect their defense. And Brian Fonseca, our man, the Miami Heat fan, also on the Bahama Rican show, with our boy Tim A, makes this point right here, in which he says Miami be playing down to the competition sometimes. NBA teams are just weird. They do typically respond well. True. Do respond well. Do I trust them enough to win by 6.5 points? No, I do not right now. What I would go here is give me the under with the over-under here for the Warriors and the Heat. The over-under right now is 213.5. I think Miami plays a good enough defense. I do not love Golden State's ability to score, especially without Steph. It is not terrible, but it's just okay. I could see this being a tight game. Wouldn't shock me if it was 105 to 100. Wouldn't shock me at all. Either way, I could see that. So give me the under. This is the way I would bet this game. The under when it comes to Heat Warriors at 213.5. That's how I'm going to go. I hear your concern, Jarod, about on the second night of a back-to-back with the Warriors. Probably would like the Heat to win this out, but give me that under. That's how I would bet this. Any player props you can maybe find. I could see Tyler Hero bouncing back with a nice game. Whatever points for over-under. Look at Tyler Hero there. I could see that. Jimmy Butler having a pretty good all-around game as he's had a really good season. Look for those two.
I like that. I like it.
Yeah.
All right, my last game, you knew I was going here.
Yes, I knew you was going to bet this.
You knew I was going here. Brooklyn Nets on the road in Memphis. Take on my Grizzly Cubs. Brooklyn Nets are minus 1.5 point favorites. The Grizzlies will be without Ja Morant, dealing with knee soreness. Yes.
What's interesting here is while I did know you were going to take this game for like obvious reasons, I have no idea where you're going to go. I think I know where you should go, but I'm not sure where exactly.
My loyalties are divided, right? Because
yes, they are.
I on the one hand, you have my favorite team in the NBA. On the other hand, you have my favorite player in the NBA, right? So I got divided loyalties here. But look, Brooklyn has been playing well. I like what I see out of them. Kyrie Irving will be available for this game. I said no John Morant. -1.5. Look, I kind of like Brooklyn to win this game. I just think that they kind of found something. They're on a bit of a roll right now. Curry will test out the game, his ankle pregame, see how he's going. If they got Seth Curry available, Andre Drummond will be available to give him some size to battle with Steven Adams and my boy Triple J. So I like Brooklyn to win this game outright. Player props, anything involving Jaren Jackson.
Oh, what a shock.
Jaren Jackson, 2 or more blocks. KD, Kyrie, I think both get 30 plus tonight. By the way, this is like Memphis Grizzlies all access week on ESPN. So be on the lookout for that.
Not that Evan.
Well, I mean, in a way, yes and no. And this is like a little bit inside like sports broadcasting. This is the moment, Dexter, where I'm annoyed that that we are not part of like a situation where we could do this and we're going all access and what you know what I mean?
I got you. You feel me? I feel you. Anyway. I feel you.
Anyway, I just think that Brooklyn has found something. And again, Kyrie's only got this game, the Heat game, like maybe one other game he's eligible to play, and that's it. And it's a wrap on the season. So he's going to want to come out and show out tonight, even though there's no John Morant. So yeah, take the Nets tonight and any player prop. I think KD and Kyrie both go over 30. Jaren Jackson, 2 or more blocks.
Yeah, I'm going to be with you. I like the way you're going to bet this game. I like this too. The line is low enough. I would jump on this with the Nets. I think the Nets are on a mission on the road with the 2 stars back to really show what they can do and probably try to put some of that fear in people, like why you should fear them. The line's probably low because some of the supporting cast for the Nets hasn't always been that great. And the respect they're giving the Grizzlies, who have played tough and well without John Morant. So don't be surprised. Don't think the Grizzlies are going to get run off the floor here.
No.
That I don't think so. This is a team that's played well. Their defense has actually been pretty good without. Look at the numbers without John Morant. So yeah, but I would lean Nets here. That over under is high. You said under?
It's high. I think I'm staying away. I might go under, but like I think I'm staying away. I think because you never know. Like it could be a situation where like the Nets put up 120 and then like it gets real stupid at the end. You know what I mean? So
I can see that. Yeah, I'd probably stay away from that. Okay. My last game of the night is the All Texas matchup. We got the Houston Rockets versus the Dallas Mavericks. I got to give the Rockets. Somebody out there is excited about the Rockets. I'm not, but somebody is.
Brian Fonseca probably. He's got guys he likes over there.
Jayshawn Tate. Tate, yes.
Porter Jr. Who else he likes over there? I forget. Christian. I guess he kind of like Christian with a little bit.
Yeah. They got a couple of guys that probably would make the Brian Fonseca All-Star team. Can't wait to announce that in a couple of months for sure. But this game, okay, the Mavericks have been playing really well. Jarod talked about this at the top of the show and how they've looked really good. Luka Doncic has been playing at an MVP level. Not a coincidence once he got into shape that he's been able to do this, but he's looked really well. They've been playing also in some tough games. I love their execution down the stretch. We saw what happened in Boston. We saw what happened in Brooklyn the other night against Minnesota. Pat Bev is all over Luka Doncic, gave him a tough shooting night, but they still were able to pull it out. So I like the way this team is executed down the stretch. This is a team I think they know they have to beat. We also talked about the play-in tournament, where the Mavs stand. You can't drop a game to the Rockets. I think this is statement one for the Mavericks. They come out 9.5 is usually around that point where I'm like, I don't know. But I think they get this because I think the Rockets are that terrible. I think they get this. So give me the Mavs -9.5. Love it here. Luka Doncic did not have a good shooting game in the last game. Really struggled. If you can see what the numbers are for him on a triple-double, throw a couple dollars on there. I always like to do that, especially when Luka comes off some rough games. He hasn't had a triple-double in about 2.5 weeks, so he's due. Look at him to get that against his bad team. My only concern when you're betting a triple-double with something like that is if they blow him out and he's not playing in the fourth quarter and doesn't have the requisite stats that he needs for it. So that's where you might want to look at maybe him over 30 points or something like that. I think Luka has a big game, though. Give me the Mavs over the Rockets. If you want to bet the Rockets, God bless you. That's really all I got to say on that. And Brian did confirm what we all knew, people. He does like Jay Sean Tate. He does like Jay Sean Tate. Now, will he make the Brian Fonseca All-Star team? Who knows?
Who knows?
You have to tune into the podcast.
He might be too young. He might be too young. He might not be ready yet.
He might not be seasoned enough. Any final thoughts on the playoff race as we wrap this up?
It's exciting, man. We got some good games heading down the stretch. I think teams want to get, like, what's the biggest thing? Get yourselves as healthy as possible coming into the playoffs. Look, nobody is fully healthy going into the playoffs because you just played an 82-game regular season. So, right, that's just the reality of it. But what teams are going to have good injury luck as they move through the postseason? That's going to tell us a lot about who's left standing in June and who's, going to be out by the wayside come end of April.
We shall see. I'll tell you what, you know what? We'll talk about this, I'm sure, in a couple of weeks, but I'll tell you one series I kind of want to see. It's a dream for me to see now in the Western Conference. I'd like to see the Grizzlies go up against the Timberwolves. I know where you're going.
I knew you were going there.
I think it can get, and I feel like Brian Fonseca's been watching the show. We appreciate him rocking with us through the whole show. I think this is a series made for Brian, right? It's going to be a lot of shit talking, a lot of chirping, Pat Bev in people's face, Carlton Towns saying some stuff. The Grizzlies ain't backing down from nobody. The league needs something like this. There's been certain things. The league got it last year with the Knicks and the Hawks, with Trae Young being the villain. I always think that's good for basketball, right? We need some chippiness again, man.
Yeah.
We need some chippiness in a series.
You know what's interesting there? I asked Coach Thorpe about this last week on Bring It In. I said, Coach, should I be concerned if my Grizzlies play the Timberwolves in round one? He was like, yes. Just flat out was like, yes. He's like, they got Karl Anthony Towns, man. Like that dude's a matchup problem. And I was like, he is. He's like, that can go 6 or 7 easily. Now, I will say the Grizzlies have some experience, playoff experience, which will help them, and the Timberwolves as a unit do not. Right. So that I think will be in the Grizzlies' favor. But I like that matchup. I think that'll be very, very interesting. I will say this, NBA, and I know you're going to do it anyway because whatever. Don't make this the NBA TV series. Just don't do that. Don't do that. Like, they're probably going to, but don't make this the NBA TV series. Like, if you're trying to grow the game, man, you got to put John Morant on one of the channels that people know where it is and know how to find. We know where NBA TV is, but the casual don't know what the hell NBA TV is.
But that's a good point, though. It's if you just look at the markets, you're right. It is tailor-made. It's tailor-made to be put as the NBA TV series. You're right about that. I'm trying to, unless you get, my mind is scanning the East right now.
Yeah.
And I can't really see an East matchup that is definitively.
Unless you go
Toronto,
Milwaukee, but no, defending champs.
Giannis is too big to get on the NBA TV now.
Although the Canada thing could matter. It's weird. The Toronto, Milwaukee could be another one they could do.
Memphis, Minnesota is prime for NBA TV.
Memphis, the smallest market. Memphis and New Orleans, the smallest markets in the NBA.
Except Memphis is so good and they have such a electrifying player. They should not be on NBA TV.
Agreed.
You're right. It's a good point. We'll talk more about that in the playoffs in the coming weeks, along with things shaping up for the awards, All NBA, MVP. There's a lot of stuff to talk about around that. So it's going to be very interesting to watch in the next coming weeks. We'll have a lot to talk about every Wednesday on this because you know how we do.
Nuance, baby.
It's nuance. We're not out here bringing you the hot takes. We're still waiting for Jarod to deliver some hot takes for y'all. But he keeps saying,
nah, man. Y'all know where to find the hot takes. Listen to these people on these shows making all these idiotic statements. Y'all know.
We have some great stuff coming up later in the week. We'll be talking about the Dallas Mavericks and their play. So some more stuff coming up about that in the show. Be sure to check Jarod out on True Hoop Mondays and Friday. Bring it in. Also on True Hoop, check out the video myself and Jarod worked on along with the great Henry Abbott interview with Dirk Nowitzki. It's really good. I had fun working on it. Jarod did some stuff behind the scenes producing. I think it came out really dope. It's a really good conversation about Dirk. Dirk was really cool to work with. So y'all should check that out on True Hoop.
Yes, sir. Excellent EP by yourself, Dexter Henry. It's a great video. Make sure you guys check that out, man. It's really, gives you really in-depth into one of the great superstars of this game. Definitely get over to True Hoop and check that video out, guys.
Check it out. Also check out Jarod 7 for this podcast. You know how they do every Tuesday Also, the pre-game betting show.
I'm on a streak on that. I won y'all money again last night. I told you. Hawks, easy money right there. Trae Young, 30 plus. 4+ threes. RJ Barrett, 20+ points, and a Hawks win. I told you. Money.
How are you feeling at the beginning of the fourth quarter when the Knicks were up 10? Still was feeling like it was easy money.
Fine.
Yeah, you should have. You know what? Because the Knicks.
Yeah, because the Knicks. That was fine.
Yep. You still should have felt good. Because you know what? I was mad at myself. I was about to watch Winning Time, and I turned the game on to look at that, and I was like, oh man, let me see how these young dudes close it out, and they did it.
They're not ready. They officially got eliminated from the play-in, right? I think last night. Did that
you know what? No, they're still actually
okay,
mathematically alive.
Okay,
I thought mathematically alive. But in my mind, they are. So, yeah, in my mind they are. Like I'm just double checking the standings again. I'm like, no, in my mind they definitely are. They definitely are. They definitely are.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. The Knicks said season's over, folks. It is over. All right, that's it for this edition of the NBA Exchange. Thanks again to Jarod Hector, Brian Fonseca, who came with the aggressiveness as you would expect in watching this show. We appreciate you watching and chiming in with all the comments. We'll be back Friday. We'll be talking some Mavs. For Jarod Hector, I'm Dexter Henry. Until next time, y'all. Peace.